Today's round takes place at Copetown Woods, and this video is going to focus on the 10 dumb mistakes that I made in this round that stopped me from breaking 80. So hopefully by me sharing some of these failures with you, you can learn from them and try to make fewer of them yourself, because my guess is if you were watching this video, maybe you're a person who's never broken 80 before, or you might be like me and you're just trying to break 80 more consistently. So after a good drive on this par 5, I get a little bit aggressive with this 6-iron and I try to get onto the green, but I pushed it a little bit left, which is not a big deal because it should be an easy chip on, but here is dumb mistake number 1. That's an absolutely terrible chip. It's almost like I have never tried to chip before. So anytime you are close to the green like that, you need to get that chip anywhere on the green, because you can see that my lie was absolutely terrible there, sending it over, and it's right in the edge of the rough. So I managed to get it on, but it leaves a long par putt, and to add to the pressure, I watched my buddy Jer and Dan both drain pretty lengthy par putts themselves. Neither of those were tap-ins, and my heart starts to race because how do I miss mine after I've watched them drop theirs? And thankfully I do. So the dumb mistake does not burn me, but I mean, I definitely should have been on the green and having a chance at a birdie putt, because who knows what could have happened there. Regardless, we move on to the second hole, which is a par 4. I used a driver because I didn't think I had the length to get to the water that's off to the right there, but I actually did, so I got really fortunate that it stayed in the rough. And I'll just take this time to note that you're not going to see amazing shots throughout this round. Because I'm focusing on the 10 dumb mistakes I make, it does not mean I'm immune to other mistakes. Breaking 80 means you're going to be hitting a lot of shots like this, where you're just kind of scrambling to make pars. So not all of these are called dumb, because you're going to miss fairways and that's completely normal. So you have to own up to that. So that was a pretty straightforward hole for me. I had a much better chip on that time, so the par putt was a lot less stressful. So on to hole 3, which you could see in that image was a dogleg right. So I pulled out a 3-wood. I ended up pulling it right around the corner, and then a really good approach on here where I wanted to make sure that I was beyond the hole. Coming off back-to-back pars, I definitely wanted to make sure I was not going to be short and bring that front bunker into play. So I ended up putting down the hill here. Nice straightforward par. I was trying to hit a little draw shot here on this par 3, but you're going to see that I have this problem with early extension, and I end up standing up through a lot of my shots. So that's something I'm definitely going to be trying to work on a lot more diligently in this golf season, because I don't want shots like this, where I just push it off to the left, puts me in the bunker. And here is dumb mistake number 2. Not getting out of the bunker. You have to get out in your first shot. I don't care where it ends up on the green, just make sure you are out of there, because now I'm hitting my 3rd shot out of the bunker. Thankfully it puts it in a position that I was able to save the bogey. And for the 5th hole, I end up pulling a 5-wood off the tee here because it gets really narrow up where kind of my driver would reach, and I didn't want to take the chance of getting in the rough, but I pulled it and ended up in the rough anyway. Just because you play it smart doesn't always mean you play it successfully. Now this approach into the green is not a great one. I pulled it a little bit again here and I end up in the rough, which sets me up for dumb mistake number 3. I tried to get really cute with this pitch. At this point I'm having a good round and I should have just accepted that I was likely going to get a bogey on this hole, but I was trying to get it to hit the ridge and kick down towards the hole, and it just didn't work out well. So that leaves me now in a hole here, as I still have to chip on, which doesn't end up well, and then I 2-putt. So instead of it being a bogey, it's a double bogey. So that's the first one where the dumb mistake really adds at least an extra stroke for me, and then I have to just try and shake it off. So hole number 6, I hit the driver off to the left side of the fairway here. It was a really good distance. I had an approach into the green that I did the same thing as the last hole, where I just rushed it a little bit, pulled it over to the right side, and I'm in the rough. But this time I don't try and get too cute. My goal was just to get up this ridge on the green, and this is an opportunity to show you what happens when you just try and play it smarter. I actually wasn't trying to get really close to the pin here, but it ended up being a great shot, and then I save a par. So I made sure not to make the same dumb mistake, but I make a totally new one on the next hole, because this is just a terrible shot. Fat shots are going to happen for us amateur golfers, but it's a really big mistake if you're letting it happen when you've already teed up the ball. And then I don't really help myself by having another not great chip, but I'm not going to chalk this up as a 5th dumb mistake because I've already put that one on there. So I'm actually showing you 10 pretty unique things. So this ended up being a bogey when I probably should have been able to chip it close enough to save the par even after that terrible tee shot, but that's what happened. So we go on to the 8th hole, where I have another 5-wood shot that's not working out great. I'm trying to play these safer ones that just end up being a little bit sprayed. And here's a close-up of where my feet are because I'm trying to hit a draw out of this rough and there's a tree that's there, so it's just a terrible all-around idea. Dumb mistake number 5 is you cannot just lose a ball in the water like that. I got way too aggressive, which leads to dumb mistake number 6, where I then overcompensate and go over the green. So a hole like this, I'm showing you 2 very dumb mistakes because even though I almost chip in there, I end up having to have a putt to make here to save a double bogey. So please, if your goal is to break 80 and you find yourself in the rough, just play a smarter shot than I did. When there's water in front of the green, you don't want to get too aggressive and too cute with those shots. It's more often than not just not going to work out well. So I did take out some of my anger on this next tee shot where I absolutely smashed that drive, probably my best of the day, right in the middle of the fairway. Gives me a chance to have a pretty aggressive approach at the hole here, but I'm probably a little bit too amped up still, and I sent this thing way past the hole. I didn't even set the camera up properly because I was so far beyond the hole, so you can just kind of see the ball rolling here. And although this is a terrible putt that ends up soaring well past the hole, I'm not going to call that a dumb mistake because if you could have seen even where I actually hit the ball from, it was a really long distance to go from. It was kind of this like double breaker and over a couple ridges. So tricky putt, but I should have been a little bit closer. I just won't call that one necessarily dumb. Now we did have a little bit of a wait here in between holes 9 and 10, which led to me losing a little bit of my swing. I really pulled this 5-wood, even though I hadn't been hitting it great. This was probably the worst I had. I pulled it into a fairway bunker and unfortunately forgot to hit record. But the good thing is I got out of the fairway bunker and ended up being in the exact spot that I wanted to attack this green on this par 5. But unfortunately, dumb mistake number 7 is I'm only about 100 yards away from this green and I missed it completely. I pulled this, I sent it into the greenside bunker, and now I am scrambling. This was an opportunity that even though I didn't have a really great tee shot, I still had a chance to get on the green with a birdie putt. And you can see here, you have to get out of the bunker, and I came up short, and then I'm chipping on from the rough, and then just tapping in this bogey. And you really just can't bogey par 5s like that in this kind of fashion, especially if you're going to be breaking 80. So we're up to 7 dumb mistakes already, but thankfully I hit a really good 4 hybrid on this long par 3. It's about 195 yards on this one, which is a little bit longer than most par 3s I end up playing. So I end up a little bit past the hole, but lag it down there much nicer than on the 9th hole. So that's a really good par to bounce back after a not great bogey. And thankfully, as you watch hole 12 here, it's a pretty straightforward par for me. I'm just going to spoil it for you now, and I want to take this opportunity to ask for your opinion. If you've watched my videos before, you might have noticed that there's something a little bit new this time. I'm playing around with having this kind of ongoing scorecard. I've noticed, a lot of YouTube videos in particular do a really good job of keeping you in the loop with how the shots are going, so you can see that this is shot number 2 and shot number 3. But you might have also noticed that I keep jumping it back and forth from the top left to the top right corner. So my question to you is, which do you prefer? Does it bother you when it keeps going back and forth? Would you prefer if it was just in one spot? Or is it just nice having something rather than nothing? So drop it in the comments below. Let me know what your opinion is about this new feature that I have added. But let's get back to talking about golf action as I hit this second shot on the par 4. And if you look just off to the left side of the screen here, there's the ball dropping in. I was a little bit left of the pin, so I leave myself a really lengthy putt for a birdie here, and I'm just trying to nestle up close enough to take a par, and I leave it a little bit shorter than I would have liked. So this is a bit of a tester, kind of the length of hole number 1, but it does not go as successfully. So again, I'm not going to mark this down as a dumb mistake because missing putts is going to happen. You can still totally break 80 by having holes like that. You're going to be making bogeys, so not a big deal there. This next hole is a par 5, which is my opportunity to try and redeem myself after bogeying the par 5 10th hole. And I have a great opening drive, a really solid second shot here to get myself about 100 yards away from the green. And this is one where I wanted to be a little bit aggressive. I was trying to go as close back to the pin as possible, but it's kind of a half blind shot. You can't really see the landing area. So I ended up hesitating a little, pulled it, but left myself a good range here that this should be a nice easy 2-putt for par at worst. But dumb mistake number 8 is having terrible pace putting. Now, unlike the 9th hole where I did not call that a dumb mistake, this one definitely was. That putt was only about 15 to 20 feet away. There's no way you should be 3-putting that if you're going to break 80. And unfortunately, after I put this tee shot into the rough, here is dumb mistake number 9. That ball is not even very buried, but this is a terrible strike. You have to be more aggressive if you are hitting these out of the rough. What you should be doing is having a little bit steeper attack angle. Even if you just kind of punch it up there close to the green to give yourself a chip, it would have been way better than me basically leaving myself the same length of an approach shot on my third one. So I get on the green, I 2-putt for a bogey, and that was definitely a dumb mistake that added a stroke that did not need to happen. And now with just a couple holes to go, you can actually see a few shots that are played very well. This is another one of my great drives of the day. I was trying to tee the ball up a little bit lower than I'm used to with my driver, because instead of trying to send it high and let it fly, I wanted to keep it low and have a little bit of control. That did not rhyme at all, but it was working. So I'm going to try to stick with that a little bit more often than not. And you can see that this par 5 goes a lot more successfully as I get on the green in 3, a really nice lag putt down here. I was not going to make the same mistake as I did 2 holes ago and send that thing 4,000 feet past the hole, so that was a nice little tap in for a par. And the penultimate hole at Copetown is this really cool par 3 that is quite a bit downhill, so not a great camera angle for you to see what was going on here, but I sent it a little bit past. But thankfully I have a really nice chip on here and I'm able to tap in for the par, so I move on to the final hole. And here's another great look at how teeing it a little bit lower was really helping me attack that ball with the driver today, and it's another one that's straight down the middle and gives me a nice approach into the green. But this is dumb mistake number 10, the final of this video. I got too aggressive in a shot that I really wasn't totally comfortable with. I was about a 6-iron distance away from the green, and there's water on the left side. It's really narrow getting up there. I should have just played it short of the green and then tried to chip on and get a short par putt. But I went for it, I pulled it off to the right, and then I had to just deal with it. You gotta chip on, and then I made that bogey. So hopefully you've learned something from my mistakes in this round, because although shooting 84 is good, and I feel like I played relatively consistent, if you take those 84 shots and look at those 10 dumb mistakes I made, even cutting those in half would suddenly be a 79. Thanks for watching, and good luck in your rounds.